Hi everybody, welcome back to Rachel and Bella Crafts. It's Rachel here. I hope you're all well. So I just want to say hello and thank you to all of you who have been watching and following along with collaboration. And hello and welcome to all and any of our new subscribers, and also to our regular viewers and watchers. Thank you ever so much for joining me today. So I am continuing today with another collaboration video. It is the 11th video and you should have been able to see all of these amazing creators and their videos by now. If you haven't yet been able to catch up with them all, there is a playlist on our YouTube channel. I will link the link down below for you, just as a bit of a quick, quick stop to get you over there if you've missed out on any of them, because they are all there on the playlist. There is also a Linktree link down below that gives you direct access to all of these wonderful creators' YouTube channels, and it'll take you straight over and you can check them out and have a little look at what they're all about if you don't already follow them. Can I also just ask one very big favour? Is that you please show them your support this month. They've all given a lot of time, effort to take part in this collaboration for you, to bring you the best tips, tricks and hacks for 2023. And can I just ask in return that you'd make an effort to leave them a like on their videos and leave them a comment and just wish them well. And if you're not already subscribers, perhaps consider subscribing to their channels as well, just to give them some support. And we really appreciate that if you do that here on our channel too. So thank you very much. Right, on with today's video. So what am I going to be talking about today? Well, you've seen lots and lots of tips and some tricks for, in the videos that you've recently... Okay, so what am I going to be doing a video about today? Well, my video today is all about junk journal definitions for terms and items, and basically just a glossary, because wow, when I first came into junk journaling, my mind was blown just by the amount of expressions, the abbreviations, and just the strangest of definitions of things, and was very, very confused and found myself trying to Google terms that obviously I couldn't then find in Google, because they are terms of the trade, should we say. They're part of the the crafters guild, maybe we'll call it. I don't know, perhaps it's not quite that grand, but there's some very confusing terms and definitions that we use. So I thought it wouldn't hurt in the middle of all of this, because this is the middle weekend, to kind of debunk some of that, because I know quite a lot of you guys here are fairly new, and some of you have been around for quite some time, and that's wonderful. But I know I've been doing junk journaling for a few years now, and there are still terms that come up and I'm like, whoa, what is that? I have no idea. I'm gonna have to go and ask somebody. So I thought it'd be good if we could cover that today. So what I've done is I've done a freebie for you. This is 5 pages of and it is an A to Z, because I love an A to Z. It's got to be an Odyssey, and I've done you a little spreadsheet that you can download from our coffee, and it has got a whole host of different things to do with junk journaling, terms, tools, techniques, supplies, just everyday things that get mentioned a lot that you may or may not know what they are, and an explanation. And what I'm going to do for this video is I'm going to pick out some and show you some examples. I'll probably just do one of each letter to kind of fly through them pretty quickly. But for the whole list, so if you do see anything here and you're like, oh, she didn't go over that, this will be on our coffee. So please, I'll put a link that should come up on the screen at some point. Go over and download this, and then you can keep this then on your desk, on your notice board. And if there's anything you're not sure of, it's a bit of a go-to for you. Okay, right, so let's crack on. Okay, so the first thing that I wanted to touch on with you, you will notice I have got some props on my desk here. So I tried to pick some interesting things to show you along the way, just so you're not just sat there looking at hands moving and my list. But the first thing I wanted to talk to you about was a book binding, and the process by which we go, the process we go through by how we bind our pages into our journals. So one of the first things that I wanted to point out is this wonderful little tool here, which is called an awl. Now, if you're not a bookbinder and you are perhaps a tradesperson, you may have one of these in your toolbox, and it would be referred to as a brad awl. Because I remember having quite a few conversations with Mum when I first started, and she was like, yeah, you need to have an awl. And I'm like, yeah, do you mean a brad awl? And she's like, no, an awl. And I was very confused. So this is what is referred to as an awl, and this is used to pierce through the journal and the signatures to create the holes through which you're then going to sew with your sewing needle. Okay, so that there is an awl, A-W-L. After you've used your awl, there are several methods by which you may like to bind your books. This one here is the pamphlet stitch, and it is a nice basic, probably one of the most used I've seen, I think, of binding. So where you open your signature, you will have used your awl to have created these holes here. So there's a 3 pamphlet stitch in this journal I've done here, and then I've simply stitched through with my needle and thread and gone through, and you go, you know, in one way or the other. I'm not going to go through in depth on all of the different styles, because obviously you can look into those further. There's lots of examples and tutorials and things on YouTube, but just for you to be able to see and understand what some of these things are. But that in there then is what we call the pamphlet stitch. There are other styles by which you can bind your journals. For example, you can have an elastic binding. So I do have an example of that here. So this is where you would use eyelets in your journal spine. And then you could do that then with elastic. So you'd have elastic then running through the eyelets. So what I've done here is I've threaded it through the top. So I've got 2 then coming out. But the great thing about this is it's kind of a loose leaf method. I have written that on the sheet, loose leaf. But that's what I mean by it, is that if I wanted to, oh, she says I just cut on my nails now. I can't. There we are. I could potentially take out a leaf, or even add in a leaf. So that is the one of the benefits of this method of binding the book. It's kind of semi-permanent, if that makes sense, whereas I suppose using your pamphlet stitch, once it's in then really, isn't it? So but I do quite like that. I do quite like that method. I've done that quite a few times in some of my journals. Another style of binding is by using an altered book. So that's where you would take a book and you would, literally journal into the book. And then you would need to bind it then, because it would be physically still attached into the actual, spine of the book. So, you're not really doing an awful lot there then, you would be adding in loose leaves. And the other, another example of book binding method is to use binder rings. I haven't got an example of one of those up here. I've left the book downstairs, but that you can get the large rings, large silver rings, which open, and you would hook them through using eyelets, and that would then hold basically your journal together. So that again would be similar to a loose leaf, and also again you could open them up, interchange them, move them around. But they are the basic general styles of book binding. There are lots of different stitch methods, something that perhaps we might get into a little further down the line, but I think that's enough information for you today. But that is there, a couple of examples for you of book binding methods. Okay, so for the letter C, I'm going to talk to you about clusters. Now, if you've been watching any of my recent videos, you'll see that we actually made some lovely clusters in one of the videos last week. But a cluster, the definition on my sheet is, I'm saying down to my page, it's a small collage made from scraps of paper, fabric, lace or beads. Clusters can be glued or sewn together and are used as embellishment decorations. So an example of a cluster would be something like this. So you can see there where I've got layers of paper. Something that we tend to do with our scraps actually, and I've just added a little bit of stitching for decoration. I have also glued this one as well, but they're just a really nice little addition to add on to something that you've created, to kind of add a little bit of, well, embellishment, and they add a little bit of depth and just jazz it up a little bit, really, don't they? So that is what we're talking about when we refer to clusters. Now you can have short little stubby clusters, you can have long clusters that run down the side of the page, you can have clusters that you use as text, but essentially a cluster is where you take a group of items and you just layer one on top of the other, and then obviously, you can also staple them. That's the other method as well. So that's what our clusters are. Okay, up next is the letter D, and I'm going to show you my dauber. This is my dauber, and also letter D is my distress ink. Now, you use your dauber to apply your distress ink to ink around items or for blending with things. And the distress ink these are pads of ink. They can be used to give items perhaps a bit of a vintage appearance, or they can be used to make items stand out. So either from edging around something, or for example, if I can quickly show you in here, there we are. If you can see on that pocket there where I've gone around that with ink, and it just makes things pop up off the page a little bit. It gives things a little bit more of a dimension. So we would use our dauber in the way that we would just apply ink to it like this, and then you would just very carefully, and I'm doing this really carefully because I don't want to make so much noise, rub it along the edge of your page. Now, I've actually cut this piece of paper here with my deckled edge cutter, and I've got to say, when you're dobbing, applying ink, it really quite likes a tiered edge, because the paper is obviously compromised and open, and the ink just seems to take a lot better to that. So by doing this, we just make things pop, as a lot of people say. But I don't know if you can see that effect around there. You know, there's different ways you can do it. You can do it as far in as you want, or just on the edge. But the dauber and the distress ink, letter D, and they just add some definition. Now, the next area of confusion I'd like to be able to help clear up is the term ephemera. Now, this is something I got very, very confused about when I first started journaling, because I was under the impression that ephemera were, you know, the things that I was putting in my journal and the things I was making, like tags and pockets and things like that. And then I watched or read something somewhere, and they were referring to other types of ephemera. And I was just like really, really confused. So basically, what ephemera is, and I will give you the definition, it is a useful piece of paper that is now no longer useful. Ephemeral, it means to go away. So basically, ephemera is temporary items that you're given that you would normally then discard off because it's only useful for a short period of time. So for example, train tickets, concert tickets, receipts, oh my goodness, all sorts of things. Things that are postcards, letters, you know, things that are useful for that moment in time, invoices, oh my goodness, what else? I can't think of anything else off the top of my head. Labels, anything that is just literally handed to you, or that you would have for a purpose that is useful at that moment in time, but then most people would just chuck them in the bin. We don't, obviously, because we like holding on to everything and we have little hoarding tendencies, I would say. But that is what the term ephemera means. So traditional ephemera, I've got some items here in front of me to give you some examples. So here we have some traditional ephemera, and these are vintage invoices, receipts. We've got some letters in here, some, you know, paper scraps, book scraps, things like that. So that is what you would call traditional ephemera. Also, if I had, you know, like some little tickets or some ticket stubs, things like that. Again, ephemera. Oh, here's another classic example. I have a lovely vintage button card. Now, this is very old. These haven't been taken off here. This you would call ephemera. So, you know, ideally you would have chopped your buttons off, used them, and then you would have discarded the piece of card. But again, because we are all a little bit strange, you know, collecting, that becomes, you know, an ephemera item for us, but in a different way. So that is not the only type of ephemera, though. In junk journaling terms, ephemera can also mean the items that we use to put into our journals. So, for example, pockets, tickets, tags, you know, all the little things. This is ephemera. So you can have ephemera that you have collected, kept, bought, or you can have ephemera that you download as a digital file and print out and create yourself. So this journal here, this is my like really junky journal. This is from my holiday last year. But this is a really good example in here of cross sections of ephemera. So this piece here is actually like the welcome booklet from the hotel that we stayed in. It's literally just a 2-leaf thing, evening menus on there, but I've actually use that as a page in my journal. So you can see that by popping that in there, that's ephemera. Okay, this here little flyer, again, it's just a, and I've written some notes on there because I had it in my pocket at the time. That's ephemera. But at the same time, this little envelope that I made is also ephemera. So they're the things that we use to add into our journals, to add interest, and also the things that we've kept, you know, things that you would normally chuck in the bin. So there's my receipt from something on the holiday. What else have I got in here? Oh, I'm sorry. Actually, this is quite jam-packed with stuff because I was really good at keeping all my stuff. I've even got my hotel key, look. So, yeah, and my receipt for my Guinness. There we go, look. But yeah, lots and lots of things. That's actually a poly bag. I'm going to use the term poly bag off the ferry. But again, that would be classed as ephemera. I've dressed it up so that I could utilise it, and I've popped it into my journal. What else have I got in here? Yeah, ephemera. Okay, so that's a little tourist card from Dublin Castle, and I've popped that in there now to use that as a tag. So that's like genuine ephemera, but then of course we can make our own replica ephemera. So I could make myself tags then using journal kits or you know, cut up magazines, things like that. So, and then when we're doing things with like our master boards and things like that, that's how we then come about to make our own replica ephemera. So it's all ephemera, it's just different types of ephemera. Now, the other thing that is also a source of confusion sometimes is the term embellishment. Now, this used to really confuse me. So what was the difference between embellishment and ephemera, or embellishments rather, and ephemera? So embellishments are the things that we add to our ephemera to make them more, you know? So again, I'm going to go back to this journal because I just spotted something in here. So my little cluster that I was telling you about earlier on, that in this situation would be classed as an embellishment because I've made this lovely little pocket here and I've added it on the top to embellish the pocket. It's added more interest to it. It's made it just more, it's decorative. So things like embellishment types of things could be things like clusters, fussy cut images, stickers, charms, flower. I need to add a comma there, washi tape, die cuts, altered paper clips. I could go on. Things like this, these cutie little flowers, these would be classed as embellishments when added to our ephemera. So that's the difference between ephemera and embellishments. Okay, so for the letter F, I wanted to just clarify for some of you what fussy cutting is. So basically, fussy cutting is the process that we go through, or the technique that is used to cut out small items that you might want to think are a little fussy. Some of us love it, some of us really don't. It all depends on how good you are with the details, but all of these items here that are in my little tray, my little dish, have all been fussy cut. So they've been cut down literally so that you can see that it's only the detail remains of the actual image. So when, for example, that's just with digital items. You don't have to just use digital items for fussy cutting, but I'm just going to show you these as an example. So when you would, you know, to download or print off a digi, for example, you know, very often they come and they'll be images on the paper, and obviously it doesn't fill the whole page, so you're going to need to cut them out. And the process by which you fussy cut is to literally remove the entire image so that it's got no white of the paper, the background left on it. And again, for example, so you've got tags here, and here are the tags cut out. So that is fussy cutting. Now you can also use the fussy cutting, oh gosh, that's a mouthful, fussy cutting technique when you want to cut out things and images from things like magazines, books, newspapers, you know, there's all sorts of things you can fussy cut. The only thing that you must bear in mind is if you are using images out of, you know, relatively new books, just to be aware of copyright rules. So if you are creating something to sell, you need to make sure that the images that you are using in there are you know, that you're working within the boundaries of imagery, so that you're not selling other people's images, if that makes sense. So that's why a lot of people do tend to use digital kits if they want other imagery, if they're particularly making journals to sell, because they know that they have permission of the designer to use them for that purpose. Whereas some magazines that maybe you'll buy, some craft magazines or what have you, you know, they do say in there that you're not to take the images out of those magazines and pop them into journals and sell them. So just something to be mindful of there. But if you do come across some very, very old books that are out of copyright, you know, you'll be able then to cut up images and things and put them in and utilise them. So fussy cutting is literally the expression used for when we completely cut out the whole of the image, as you can see here, in a very fussy way. And they're ready to be used then for your embellishment. It's okay, you haven't tuned into the wrong A to Z video. We are still on the February tips and tricks A to Z, but the next letter that I'm going to look at is the letter G. And for the letter G, I want to talk about gator mouth. Now, I'm not sure if you're aware what gator mouth is, but this seems to be a bit of an area of not controversy, but people don't seem to be able to agree on this. I think perhaps the better way is to look is that we all have a different opinion. So basically, what is gator mouth? Well, gator mouth is where your journal mouth is wider than your journal spine. So basically, it's that full that the book doesn't close, you know, as it should, like this, for example. So this does not have gator mouth. This is where your spine and your front are either narrower at the front, so you've got room for expansion, or they are of the same dimension and the book sits beautifully, nice and neatly like that on your shelf and stands nice and neatly like that on your shelf, okay? This beast, however, is full, which is, I feel, exactly how a Christmas journal should be, because there's so much stuff in there. It's full of memories, wonderful. But it has a huge, huge gator mouth. And like I say, some people like it, some people don't. It does put pressure on the construction of your journal. So if you are going to create a journal with that idea in mind, that you're going to stuff it so much that it has a gator mouth, I would recommend that you be sure to reinforce your spine, maybe even widen it a little, just to kind of prevent this sort of thing happening. Now, in my defense, this was my first Christmas journal I made some years ago, and I did get a little overexcited, added probably a signature too many. There are 4 signatures in there, which are just far too many, and a heap of stuff shoved down inside as well. So, but I don't care, because I absolutely love it. I'm very, very proud of this journal, and as I say, it holds lots and lots of lovely memories. But there we go. So that is exactly what a gator mouth journal looks like. Okay, so for the letter H, we have got Happy Mail. Now, Happy Mail is the mail that you receive or send to someone to brighten up their day. So it usually includes some craft items, so, you know, things that you've created, either some tags or, you know, little things like this are ideal. That little heart notebook thing I made the other day out of the scraps, that's the kind of ideal thing that you would use for Happy Mail. So when you hear people say in a project, oh, this would make an ideal piece of Happy Mail, Happy Mail is designed to do just that. It's meant to give the receiver just a little injection of happiness and joy into their day. You can do that through a rack. You may have heard that expression, R-A-K, which is a random act of kindness. So that would usually be where the person may not know where it's come from, hence the term random. You can get, you know, very often the groups on Facebook will have a rack list where people have popped their names and addresses on. So if you wanted to go and just spontaneously send something off as a surprise to someone, you are able to do that in that way. Some of the groups don't store people's information on rack lists any longer, mainly due to data protection. However, the admin for the group will very often hold the list somewhere securely, and should you need an address to send something off, you just would contact the group admin, and I'm sure they would be able to assist you with that. But yes, Happy Mail, basically anything that you want to pop in. Crafting supplies, stickers, cards, lace, charms. If you've ever seen any kind of like swap parcels that go around, they also make nice Happy Mail packages. But yeah, if you have some leftover items, we've been making something, chuck it into an envelope and post it off to somebody for some Happy Mail. It just brightens up their day. Oh, I tell you what, it doesn't happen very often, but when it does happen, it makes your day. So that is what Happy Mail is. Okay, for the letter I, we're going to look at inking. So I did discuss this briefly with you just now with regards to our distress inks and our dobber. So inking is literally the process of taking your ink and basically adding the ink to the edges of your paper, your card, your piece of ephemera. I'm hoping you'll be able to see the effect that kind of gives us here just by going around the edges of this tag. So if you look at the one that I have here that is not inked, and then if you look at the one that is inked, and you'll see that it's just given us a really kind of weathered and aged look around the edge, and it just gives it a little bit more definition. So here's another example here of a journal card where the edges have been inked, and it just makes it look really old, and you don't have that kind of glistening white fresh cut look on the edge that sometimes you get when you're obviously cutting paper, and it just really adds to the look of something. So you don't always want to ink. So for example, these lovely bits of Happy Mail that I had here, these haven't been inked, or this one has, sorry, but this one hasn't, because it doesn't need it. You know, it's a beautiful light coloured kind of shabby chic style tag, and obviously to add ink to that would, you know, there'd been no need for it. You know, you could perhaps put some pink ink around the edge if you wanted to, and I think that's what she's done here by the looks of this, because there is pink around the edge of that. Ink doesn't just come in this colour. There are a huge plethora of different colours available that you can get for different inks. So that's the distress inks. Bear with a second. On the floor down here I do have my mini inks. So you'll see that there are lots and lots of different colours that you can use for inking, and you can, the process that I've just shown you there, you can do that with any of these to add different colours, definition, and just some kind of it's like drawing a picture, and then, you know, when you want to go around it with a black felt pen after to make things stand out. It's kind of to give it that kind of an effect. So that's why we ink. It's just to give that definition and to help your ephemeral item stand out on the page. Okay, now the age-old question. J is for junk journal. Of course it was going to be for junk journal. What else was I going to do J for? Okay, so what is a junk journal? Right, let's just read out this little description that we've got here. A junk journal is a handmade or altered book with pages created from many sources, recycled material, old sheet music, maps, illustrations, notebooks, etc., and also printable images such as junk journal kits. It can be made of paper, fabric, and usually includes ephemera, which we've already discussed, things like old stamps, receipts, tickets, postcards, etc. Now, as I said to you, this is my probably most junky junk journal, because I do work with a lot of digital kits, obviously because I create digital kits, but this one here, I specifically wanted to include, I suppose it's the easiest time that you can do it when you go on holiday, because you can pick up loads of stuff, can't you? But I literally went on this holiday last year when I went to Ireland, and I wanted to include lots of different items that I brought back from Ireland. I haven't finished this journal yet. I just haven't had the chance to get back to it. So I haven't yet bound it either, but I'm still in the process of my signatures. But this, by my saying that this is, you know, kind of a real eclectic junk journal, because of the things that are included in here. So I'm just going to give you a quick example of what we would class as junk. So for example, this page I showed you just now, which is the menu and the welcome information from the hotel. This backing page here is actually just a collage that I made of some of the photographs that I took, because we went and visited lots of different castles and lovely buildings and stuff. So I took a load of photographs of doors and fireplaces, and look at that beautiful bureau. And I just chucked a load of the photos on a background and made a collage like that with it. That's obviously from one of our kits. What other junk have I got in here? So like I said, there's the flyer there, there's a paper bag, a gift bag that I had some stuff in. And then I've got other things in here then, like digital kits. I've got some coffee dye paper in here. I've got another, oh my goodness, I don't even know how I've constructed this. Right, this here is one of the, you know, like a tourist information leaflet. This was a card that was given to us from the hotel. Like I say, my key card, little wallet thing. We've got receipts in here too. What else have I got in here that's a little bit junky? I've got added in, you know, all bits of lace. Again, I've printed some photographs onto the back of a digital kit. So I just did a little like collage thing there with all of the, you know, things of our trip. I've used a poly bag from the Stena Line ferry to make a glassine bag. It wasn't used, I have to point that out. I didn't use the bag first. Receipts, lots of receipts. Oh, it was so cold on this holiday. So cold, but absolutely lovely. I love our island. Like I said, again, I picked up Ephemera in the tourist information. That's the place to go. If you want stuff for junk journals, that's the place to go if you're on holiday, into the tourist information place, because there's just so much free ephemera in there. It's just fantastic. But again, you know, this is a really great example of what I would call quite a traditional junk journal, because it just contains so many elements. You know, I've got washi tape in here, lace, bits of fabric in here, linen that's been, you know, stained, coffee dyed. I've cut out images then from tourist, you know, leaflets. Some photographs, and then I've got all sorts of things going on here. I just love it. Some sewing in here on the pages, little pockets made from book pages. This the cover is actually made from a book that I got when we were there. They were all just on a shelf in the hotel saying basically, look, take a book. So I did take a book. I did put a little donation in the thing, but I've used that and altered the cover to make the cover of my thing. Another gift bag. That's the rest of the menu from the one hotel that we stayed in. But yeah, so lots of different things in here, and they're all, you know, actual tangible things that I've literally brought back from Ireland. So from my holiday, there's a little map there of one of the castles that we visited, all sorts of things in there. So you know, and you can see from the different types of pages that I've used as well. So again, junk journals, eclectic with the pages. This is an old ledger, didn't get that from Ireland, but yeah, it's just that combination of items. So that's what a junk journal is. But a junk journal doesn't have to be like this. Junk journals can also be like this one here. So I would imagine, I haven't been in this one for a little while, but I think this one is mostly things like digital kit pages, book pages. I've got some dyed paper there. That is a ledger page there. That's a digital page. That's a book page, another digital page. But, you know, it's giving the same effect. It's just as beautiful, just as usable. But obviously there are digital pages in here. But again, that's my choice. So I would tend to refer to this perhaps more as a handmade journal. But it does still contain those elements of bringing together different items, different mediums, to make a journal. So that is what a junk journal is. It's a combination of pages sourced from different materials and lots of recycled materials. So there we go, junk journal. Okay, letter K. I had to think about this. I really struggled with K, but I did come up with a little term for you. I haven't got one here that is a really good example, but the term is kiss cutting. Now, as opposed to fussy cutting, kiss cutting is where you have a fussy cut item, like this, for example, and you would cut it out, but you would leave about 1 millimetre of white around the edge. So, you know, like when you have the stickers and they have those bit of white around the edge, that's like a kiss cut. So you're going just within 1 inch, basically, but it's more like 1 centimetre. And you would leave that kind of little white frame around the actual image. Okay, so that is a kiss cut. for the letter L, I don't actually have a one of these two as an example for you, but I'm going to try and quickly explain to you. L is for a lapbook journal. Now, a lapbook journal is the type of journal that you would open and then open and then open. I suppose a little bit like maybe this ephemera holder that I got here. So this kind of has that effect where you will open it and then you'll open another flap. But I would imagine that with a lap book, it would kind of tend to go more. So you would then have a flap there, you would have another flap there, you'd have like a file folder effect in there. I have got a pocket in there. But again, then on this side, you bring that bit over, you know, there's another fold out there. So that's the kind of effect that you would have with a lap book. So a lap book is it's a type of journal that folds out multiple times and contains lots of flips, flaps and folds. Okay, so M is for masterboards. Now, a lot of you ask, what is a masterboard? I had a lot of queries because we did a video the other day on masterboards, and then we put them through our embossing machine, and there are a lot of questions and queries saying, well, what is a masterboard? Well, a masterboard is designed to be, traditionally, the foundation upon which you then build. So traditionally with a masterboard, you would take a page, preferably a book page, and you would then layer several different types of pages, probably book pages or music paper or something like that, something with perhaps script, and you would layer that then underneath, ready for you then to add things like this, fussy cutting, you know, other imagery. You might then add stamping on top of that. You might then, you know, add labels on top of that. Then you might take your masterboard and then cut it into ephemera pieces, you know, might make tags out of it or things like that. But the masterboard, hence the term master, because it's like master copy, isn't it? It's like stage one, basically, of whatever it is that you're going to do with that project. So I've started this book now where I've been just sat with my scraps of the night in front of the TV, just building up my masterboard bases so that as and when I want them, they're there for me to just tear them at the book, and then I can get on and do stuff with them. So I've used quite a few of them already. They've been very, very handy. But obviously that's not them in their finished state. That's just the foundation layer. So that's what your masterboards are. Okay, so we're on to the letter N. We're over halfway now, guys. So for N, I've picked notebook. Again, couldn't really think of anything else for N, but notebooks are amazing. So in my little Irish journal here, I have this very cute notebook that I made last year. And basically a notebook is a little collection of pages and papers. Often they are inserted into journals, as this one was, and present you sometimes with hidden writing spots or little journaling areas within your journal. So this one here, as you can see, is just a little collection of scrap bits of paper. I've actually done this on kind of a 2-hinge thing so that I could hang it over the page without it all rucking up. But yeah, you could basically put any papers that you like inside your notebooks, and they're just really handy to have. So if you do have a nice journal that you don't necessarily want to write on the actual pages, it can be handy to put a notebook in so that you can write in that and then keep your journal pages nice and pristine, just in case. Okay, again, we're not going back to Christmas. This is just one of the examples of, I wanted to show you open spines. Now, I have created quite a few open spines in the past. Unfortunately, those journals have sold and they've gone on. So this is kind of an example of an open spine journal. But basically, the idea of an open spine journal is that you would you would see the binding and the spine and where the signature is being held together. And you can very often do it with fabric. But with an open spine, you would tend to have, rather than a whole piece of fabric there, you would tend to have strips that have been used to secure the spine in place. Now, this style of book, I can't even remember what I call this now, but the point of it is that obviously it opens up here. So you've got journaling space that side. It opens up here, so you've got journaling space that side. It opens up here, so you've got journaling space this side, and then you should be able to turn it over and do the same thing. Then Here. Now the spine on this is actually it is actually contained within here, but it has all been secured with this piece of fabric, but obviously I can see the spine. But more traditionally, with an open spine, you would have strips of fabric. So like I say, so you would be able to see part of the signature behind it. So basically that the spine would literally be open and you'd be able to see what's going on in there. But there we go. So an open spine. Okay, so for the letter P, I have a tool for you. You will notice on your sheet that there is a category down the right-hand side that says tools, supplies, journal items, techniques, terms, styles. So it'll tell you what the word is and what I'm talking about. But this one is a tool, and I have chosen paper trimmer for the letter P. Paper trimmers come in all sorts of shapes and sizes. I have quite a few here. This one is my new favourite at the moment. This is actually a decal trimmer. It is from Tim Holtz, and basically it gives me a lovely kind of torn edge page look when it does slice my paper. Very much a favourite though at the moment, and very, very useful. But paper trimmers are that. They are either a sliding blade or a chopping blade. Now my sliding blade, this is my big one here. I tend not to use it on the desk because it's so big. And you'll see that the blade does in fact slide across on that one. This one is very handy for when I'm trying to cut several pages together at the same time, because it does have that nice depth on that lip there. But yes, this is a paper trimmer. Okay, letter Q. So again, that was another mind bender. What was I going to pick for Q? Well, obviously for Q, I was going to pick quilt. Now, quilts have become a firm favourite with the junk journalers because they make such wonderful journal covers. So if you can get your hands on a segment of quilt, you won't go far wrong. I have got an example here for you, thankfully, because Bella has been busy at it. We have actually got quite a few of our beautiful quilts left in stock at the moment, and we've had a little delve and a little play. Bella's been helping me make the angel journals for some of our lovely ladies in our Facebook group, and she's done this one here. This beautiful cover has been made with a section of quilt. So as you can see, she's literally stitched around the top, added that then onto some beautiful cardstock, but it just makes a really, really pretty cover. So there we go. That is my letter Q. It is quilt. On to the letter R. Now I was very, very tempted to insert myself here as Rachel for R, but I resisted the temptation. And I'm not a junk journal term anyway. But what I do have in this journal here to show you for R is actually a ruffle. Now this is one style of a ruffle. There are a few different ways in which you can make a fabric ruffle. You can either fold your pieces of material like a kind of accordion concertina and stitch them, or you can thread a piece of thread through and add them onto a piece of thread and pull so that it kind of scrunches up a little bit and ruffles a bit more. So again, different styles, different types of ruffles, but basically this is a paper ruffle. So where you ruffle together some fabric and they actually make really ideal decorations for the edges of your pages. So that is letter R. It is a ruffle. Okay, so I'm going to cover two things here now with the letter S, because the one I think is quite an important term for you to know if you're not quite sure. So the first one is signature. So just in case there's any confusion out there as to what a signature is, signatures are the groups of pages in a journal. So I'm showing you the top of my journal here so that you can see. This one here, for example, has 2. So that is basically those groups of pages there where they're together like that in a little group, and the way that they are bound in. So I've got one signature there, and that's bound in here with this is pamphlet stitch. And then we've got another signature here, and that's bound in separately there with another pamphlet stitch. What other one have I got? Oh, I haven't got a signature in there. Let's have a look at this one. I think there's 2 in this one as well. I hope you can see that over there. Yep, again, so there's 1 there and 2 there. You can have single signatures, like my Christmas one that I showed you earlier on. I had 4 signatures in it. So basically, it's when you open up the journal, or you know, when you're putting it together, and you've got that group there of pages. I think you can put as many pages as you want in a signature, but you know, rule of thumb tends to be about 10 to 15, I think, all depending on how much you're going to kind of stuff into them. You know, if you want to put quite a lot in, you know, I would recommend that perhaps you have fewer pages, but you know, because if your spine can take it. So basically, you know, you need to just think about growth. I mean, I haven't finished this one here yet. I want to add a few more bits and pieces, but I've left a nice wide space there for that to grow, because I don't want to end up with gator mouth with that one. So that is your signatures. Signatures is the group of papers, folded papers, the pages, and they are then, you know, attached to your binding. Now, the second S that I want to show you is a snippet roll. Now, I was in a little panic because I didn't think I had one here to show you, but I do. And this beauty here was made very kindly for me by Bella. And a snippet roll is basically, it's a long, thin collage made of paper or fabric scraps. They can either be glued together or sewn together, like this one is here. And the idea is that you'd make a long roll, and then you can cut snippets from it to use as clusters or embellishments for decorating your journals. So, for example, with this one here, if I were to, I probably will never cut this up because it is too beautiful, and because Mum made it for me. But I would snip across the edge here, and then I could use that little section there as an embellishment on a page. Again, you know, you could cut here, you could cut there, and then, you know, use that bit there. But yeah, so that is what a snippet roll is. And obviously it's called a roll because it's rolled onto or around my bobbin. It's not called a bobbin, I can't think what it's called, but I'm going to call it a bobbin. And it sits there very nicely on my shelf with my other journals. So that is what a snippet roll looks like. It is a roll made up of snippets of scraps and other bits and pieces. Now you can also have them fabric and paper. So it's entirely up to you how you put them together. There's no hard and fast rules. There are some beautiful ideas of them on Pinterest. If you wanted to make a snippet roll, go and type it into Pinterest and oh my gosh, you'll see some beauties will come up. But they'll just give you some inspiration. But that is what a snippet roll is. Okay, so you'll see on your sheet that there are several examples for the letter T. And the one that I'm going to discuss with you, because this is a new term to me this week, is the tip-in. Now, I've never come across this before, but basically, and I don't have an example in front of me here, but you're going to have to use your imaginations a minute. Basically, a tip-in is, imagine that this page here were attached to the page underneath with a bit of washi tape. Okay, so using your imaginations now, okay, imagine there's a bit of washi tape on there, and that has made it attach to the page that is underneath. Okay, so imagine it's attached to this page here with a bit of washi tape, and I would be opening the page, and you know, you'd have whatever behind there, you have a pocket behind there, you've got hidden writing space behind there, but that would be called a tip in, as opposed to a flip out. So you'd have a flip out if it was on this side. Let's use this as an example. So if I had that attached there like that, and I was opening the page, it would be called a flip out, wouldn't it? But if I were to attach it this way, it would be called a tip in, because the page is tipping in to the book the same way as the other pages are folding in. Okay, so that is a tip in. It's a completely new term to me. Thought it was fantastic. Definitely going to be trying that this week though. Okay, so for the letter U, I have on my sheet an urban style journal. Now, an urban style journal is a type of journal or book that tends to include a lot of mixed media. It might be grungy in design. It'd be kind of full of kind of like graffiti style art and lots of art and kind of an art style journal really. But that's what I came up with for you, urban style. I'm now going to move on to V, and Vellum I have down for V. Now, I would expect most of you would know what Vellum is, but for those of you that don't, Vellum is like a thicker version of tracing paper. It is fairly thick. You can get it in different thicknesses as you could with paper and cardstock. So obviously you would check that out when purchasing, double check how thick or how thin it is and how thick or how thin you want it. Vellum is very, very useful. You can print onto vellum, as has been done here in this journal. You can use vellum to make envelopes. You can use it to make glassine bags. You can use it to make pockets. You can use it for pages in your journal. Very, very useful. And it's just a nice medium to have, because as you're leafing through a journal, it's, you know, you come across it then and it's like, oh, that feels quite different. And it's the noise. Oh, I love that crackly sound. Isn't it amazing? So vellum for the letter V. Now for the letter W, you have double the treat. Now on your form, on your sheet, you will have wax seals or sealing wax for W. Now wax seals are basically created, here's one here. Oh, I didn't know that was in there. And they are to, you know, replicate. Years ago when they used to seal their letters, they would have their candle and they'd dip a bit of wax on the page and then they'd hit it with their seal and it would keep your letter shut so you'd know nobody was opening your mail. Because when the guy was, you know, running off to wherever to deliver your post. But thankfully we are able to replicate those today with our very cute little wax burners. So we've got our candle underneath the little dish here. And then you have one of these, which I can't for the life of me think what the thing is called at the minute, but that's my spoon. I'm going to call it my spoon. And then you would take your wax, which you can get either in a stick like this, or they come in tiny little cubes like this. I think I usually use 2 of these to make a decent sized wax seal. You can also blend them, so you can put 2 different colours in and you get this really nice cool marble effect. So perhaps if you use like alternate colours, like perhaps the gold and the blue or something, it's lovely the way it swirls around. So you would light the candle, you would pop your wax in, or you would hold that over the flame and it would drip into there. Oh, you'd light that, sorry, and it would drip into there. As you can see, I've used quite a bit of that one there. And then when it's all melted in your little spoon, you would pour that then onto your whatever. So you could either do it on a little bit of Perspex first, or you can do it directly onto what you're going to put it onto. And then as you've poured that down, you would literally just place your seal on top, and the coldness of the seal will make it set, and then give it a little wiggle and then lift it straight up. And then what that will do is to push this is not a very good example, that's probably why I didn't use it, but it will push then the excess around the edges, and you should have a lovely nicely formed circle seal. So that is the wax seals. That's what I was actually hunting high and low for the other day, and then found them this morning when I was looking for something else. As would happen. But when I was looking through the journals just now for things to show you, I came across this one. I'd forgotten I'd made this journal. Now, I made this after another holiday last year. Gosh, I make it sound like I go on holiday all the time. Ireland was actually 2 years ago. I've just realised what year it is. This was last year's holiday. And this is what is known as a waterfall journal. So the idea of a waterfall journal is that your pages increase in size as they go along, so that you get this waterfall effect as they flip over. Oh, there's a tip in. Ha! There you go. That's a tip in. I didn't even know that was in there. Oh, there's a couple in here. There we go. That's what I'd made this specifically to house all of the lovely postcards that I'd brought home from my holiday. This is a beautiful kit. This kit has been designed by Rose from Journals in Time. It was the one she released last summer. It was her Titanic kit, and it is absolutely beautiful. Well, I think it's Voyage or something, I think it's called. I can't quite remember now. But go and check it out on her page, because it is lovely. And I just backed that then with our lace kit. But, oh, I love that postcard. Absolutely stunning. So, yeah, so that is a waterfall journal. So that is your W. Okay, so by the time I've gotten to the last 3 wonderful letters of the alphabet, I've had to get extremely creative. I hope you'll forgive me. So for X, you have extremely addictive, because that is what junk journaling is. And I put here for you, junk journaling is the perfect pastime or hobby to practice mindfulness and relaxation. It is an amazing outlet for creative energy. It is very addictive, but also is the shopping for it. And we have to get careful that sometimes we don't get sidetracked. But that's your X. Now for Y, and I was quite glad I found this because I didn't have any examples, but Y, I've actually put down a yo-yo. And by a yo-yo, I do not mean the ball on the edge of a bit of string that you take for a walk and do all those wonderful tricks with. This here is a yo-yo. So if you haven't seen one of these before, it is a little round item. It's a bit of round fabric that you stitch very easily. There are lots of YouTube videos that will help you stitch one of these in minutes. Trust me, it didn't take me long to learn how to do them. And there's one here on this lovely snippet that Bella has made for me. So they're just so cute. They're lovely on the front of your journals, on your snippet rolls, on your slow stitch projects. And they're great because you can create them any size and out of any piece of fabric. So there we go. Watch that pin there, Rach. I'll have my fingers off. That is a yo-yo. And for Z, I was going to do zipper, but I thought, we've done that enough in our A to Zs. So instead, I'm going to talk to you about zip files, because lots of you buy journal kits from me, and when you're downloading the kits, you sometimes get a little confused. So the zip file is the file in which all of the smaller files go. The idea of it is it compresses them, because when we upload files into the internet, you can only upload so big a size of them. So it's like having a load of papers on your desk and needing to take them with you, but you can't carry them all. So you get a briefcase and you put them all in the briefcase and you shut the lid and then you just carry the briefcase. Well, that's what a zip file is like. So when it gets to you then, when you download the zip file, you simply will click on the zip file and open it. And there should be a thing at the top that says extract all files. And you click on that, and then it'll ask you where you want to save them. You choose a place on your computer where you want to save them, and then they'll all be downloaded, and then you can open them up and play with them and print them and play with your papers and everything else. But that is what a zip file is. If you're not used to computer stuff and jargon, sometimes these things can seem a little bit off-putting and scary, but they're very simple to use, very simple. So that is it. That is our A to Z of junk journal definitions for terms and items that we use. Whew, that was a marathon session. I hope this video hasn't been too long. Thank you so much for joining me. Really, really appreciate it. This will be on our coffee page as a freebie. Please go over, download it, print it off. The only thing I do ask is that you don't pass it on. If anybody wants it, please direct them to our coffee page to go and get a copy off there. But yes, print it out, stick it up in your craft rooms, and you've got there lots of definitions. There's way more on there than I've gone through today, but I didn't want you to be here all night with me. So that's it. Have a wonderful day. Please, 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 can I just ask, if you enjoyed the video, you leave me a comment and like the video. And if you haven't yet subscribed, if you would consider subscribing and following our channel. But other than that, have a wonderful weekend, and we will be back with you very soon. Take care now. Bye.